All right, so what's going on, everybody? So I want to do a walkthrough of the recent Twitter Part 5 series because a lot of us have been wondering, we've been asking, a lot of people have just been trying to get my take on it, and I thought maybe I can walk through it, give some commentary, but more importantly, I want to counter this argument that so much of the media has influenced people to think, which is that the insurrection happened on January 6th, that people think that Trump tried to overthrow the government, and that is simply not true. And I'm just here to declare that the real insurrection happened on November 3rd, Election Day, and this is in reference to fraud and many other things. I'm very just going to come out here and just say it because so many of us need to counter this offensive that the mainstream media and that the people have been trying to do on society. And it's worked a number because even though continual facts come out, just like with this Twitter files that I'm about to go through, many people, they just take a couple of things, a couple of key titles, points. They give a lot of credibility and credulence to certain media outlets. They take the narrative, they run with it, and then they become even more gung-ho than the original person that had given the information, and they just say, "Hurrah, Trump tried to overthrow the government and blah, blah, blah. I can't believe it." And they just run with it. And it's just mind-blowing to me how gullible, how much people are being taken hook, line, and sinker to these narratives, because it's quite comical now, because if you haven't been in the weeds and the details, all people can do is think that they know something about something because they read 2 or 3 articles and think this is what is happening. And so let me give you some proof. And also, if you haven't lived through that time in detail, following each day, each story, each narrative, each tweet, part by part, and you were just going off summaries, executive summaries from what people have been telling you, then this is the time for you to be able to really critically think and wake up, because I know many of you watching are not in that boat, but for many people, this has to shake you awake. And sadly, for many people, as more and more truth comes out, as more and more countering of this narrative comes out, people are still going to refuse to believe it because they want to believe what they want to believe. They want to hate on the people they want to hate on. They want to have a sort of bias, and it's going to just have this positive or negative reinforcement to their belief system. And this is the problem we live in today. People don't want to believe truth. They hunger after just their flesh and the things of the world. And so let me just go through these part by part, and I want to give you some commentary. So Barry Weiss is, I would say, a left-leaning or leftist press editor and founder of the Free Press, but tends to write in that direction, at least historically, from what I researched. I don't know the person, and haven't followed the person, but this is what they released on December 12th. Now, this is part of a series, as I mentioned before, where the release of this transparent uncovering is first being done on Twitter, and then it goes to other places. But Elon Musk tweeted about this, but it's just been part of a series, and who knows how many more are coming out. But it is very juicy because it is coming out with the stuff that a lot of people, like I've said before, thought was a different narrative, only to find out that internally, and this is just in Twitter, like think about the other areas, FBI, the Justice Department, other mainstream medias, many different places, Facebook, Google, other places, like what that conversation was like. Now, I want people to pay attention to the demonic spirit, and I'm going to say it outright, some of the demonic spirit that is behind this, and you have to really discern, and it goes beyond the words, right? You have to really discern and pray through how to read these things. And for me, honestly, even recently, in the last 5 years, even the last 5-7 years, was really when I began to wake up to see the demonic spirit that is over some of this narrative. It looks good. It looks professional. It looks like they're saying the right things. But again, Satan is not going to come out and just say with a pitchfork, and with fires and horns, like, "Hey, believe me, believe this evil tweet that I'm saying. Believe the evil words." He's not going to come out outright and say things for which it's so obvious to the naked eye that it is demonic. Demonic spirits will come in the form of something luscious, delicious, right? Crafty. And so you have to be aware of what is demonic and what isn't. To the naked eye, you can see something at face value, and you can see that it's good, or you can see it's demonic. So this is how Satan works. Okay, so I'm just going to have this up here on the screen so you can follow along. But part one. On the morning of January 8th, President Donald Trump, with one remaining strike before being at risk of permanent suspension from Twitter, tweets twice. 6:46 a.m. The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. So that was January 8th. 7:44 a.m. To all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. For years, Twitter had resisted calls, both internal and external, to ban Trump on the grounds that blocking a world leader from the platform or removing their controversial tweets would hide important information that people would be able to see and debate. Our mission is to provide a forum that enables people to be informed and to engage their leaders directly, the company wrote in 2019. Twitter's aim was to protect the public's right to hear from their leaders and to hold them to account. But after January 6th, as these two people have documented, pressure grew both inside and outside of Twitter to ban Trump. There were dissenters inside Twitter. Maybe because I am from China, said one employee on January 7th, I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation. Now look at this person being objective, trying to approach the situation as objectively as possible. Now let's look at the rest of this conversation. I understand this fear, but I also think it's important to understand that censorship by a government is a very different than censorship of the government. The First Amendment in the U.S. and similar legislation in other countries with similar concepts exist specifically to prevent the government from silencing the people. I respect that, but realistically, we impose far stricter rules on effectively everyone else on the platform. We started labeling, restricting his tweets when they became a threat to democracy and seemed like that was our red line. Yesterday, he clearly attempted to overthrow our democratic system of government and showed no signs of remorse. If this is not a clear reason to suspend him, again, as an unhinged ruler attempting to subvert the most powerful democracy in the world, I'm not sure what would be. Now look at how interpretation has come about this person. This person is making a conclusion based on what he believes his tweets, Trump's tweets, and his speeches even. I mean, I don't know what he's basing his information off of, but a lot of people in society, they take what is presented to them as fact, as quotes, as objective truth in terms of this is what they said. They make an interpretation, they make a conclusion, and they think this is the facts. So you have to realize that this is where news, direction, and just opinion and narrative setting has moved towards. People they take two steps further than what is the fact of what they said, and then they make a conclusion, and they believe that this conclusion is also fact. So this is what's happening with this person. But again, your interpretation and the wording, the coding, if you want to call it, the terminology, the taxonomy, the definition behind words and their intended meaning is again how it's going to ensure that something is perceived in a certain way versus it isn't to another person. So this is what you have to realize. Do not take someone's 2 steps later conclusion as fact when really you have to take 2 steps back and look at what they're saying. So this is what's going on with some people that have been clouded in their judgment based on their hatred, their bias for somebody like Trump. So this is what's clearly and this is the demonic spirit that's working here. And this is what, again, let me mention this. But continuing on, but voices like that one appear to have been a distinct minority within the company. Across Slack channels, many Twitter employees were upset that Trump hadn't been banned earlier. After January 6th, Twitter employees organized to demand their employer ban Trump. There is a lot of employer advocacy happening, said one Twitter employee. Now let's take a look at this again. Again, you have to read this and discern. A lot of people, they take this at face value. So that's why I'm going through this one by one. I'm still struggling to understand the decision not to ban Trump altogether, given he is inciting people to violence that has led people being killed. And I think I owe people an explanation externally. Again, he's taking 2 steps further, thinking that this is the conclusion, this is the facts, but it is not, right? It's his interpretation, his biased interpretation of the situation, when really it is far from it. Number 2, or the next part, this is the elephant in the room. It feels like Twitter policy is engaged with someone acting in bad faith. We won't acknowledge it. Do we have any belief that Trump will stop tweeting incitements to violence? If Alex Jones was shut down for Get your battle rifles. He far exceeded that standard. I think a lot of employees must share these concerns. Is there any sort of channel or group where we can organize more action? There's a lot of employee advocacy happening both here and in that other channel. I understand he was our president and that he may have been the reason why we were hesitant to do it, but I think come January 20th, there is absolutely no excuse why his account shouldn't be suspended for good. I have friends with blank 1K followers that it doesn't finish there. But continuing on, we have to do the right thing and ban this account, said one staffer. It's pretty obvious he's going to try to thread the needle of incitement without violating the rules, said another. So again, here's a hint. And it's going into the direction of they're going to find out that he was not in violation of Twitter rules. But again, they're trying to fish for something, and we'll continue on in a second here. But again, here's somebody with their biased opinion, knowing objectively that they're not violating the rules, saying that they're threading, quote unquote, the needle of incitement. And again, they're with their biased view. They want to believe what they want to believe based on the words they hear. This happens everywhere, guys. You take a marriage. You take somebody that says your spouse saying something. They say something, but their intended meaning is something different. The way they perceive something based on how their relationship is with you. If they're angry and upset about you, you've always been doing bad things, the next thing you do, they're going to perceive it in a negative way. You have negative glasses, you have positive glasses, you have neutral glasses, depending on your perception of that person. So this is happening the same way with Trump for many people that hate him. They just want to take anything neutral and bad as being 2 steps worse than what it is. So you have to be aware of that. Now look at this. Part 11. In the early afternoon of January 8th, the Washington Post published an open letter signed by over 300 Twitter employees to CEO Jack Dorsey demanding Trump's ban. We must examine Twitter's complicity in what President-elect Biden has rightfully termed insurrection. But the Twitter staff assigned to evaluate tweets quickly concluded that Trump had not violated Twitter's policies. I think we have had a hard time saying this is incitement, wrote one staffer. It's pretty clear he's saying the American patriots are the ones who voted for him and not the terrorists. We can call them that, right? From Wednesday. Another staffer agreed. Don't see the incitement angle here. I'm also not seeing clear or coded incitement in the DJT tweet, wrote Anika, a Twitter policy official. I'll respond in the elections channel and say that our team has assessed and found no bios or violations for the DJT one. So she does say that as an FYI, safety has assessed the DJT tweet above and determined that there is no violation of our policies at this time. So again, a different department has evaluated objectively that this was not a violation of their policies. But look how they are trying to fish for how to make this align to what they want to do, as opposed to righteous and objective judgment, right? Later, Anika Navaroli would testify to the House January 6th committee. For months, I had been begging and anticipating and attempting to raise the reality that if we made no intervention into what I saw occurring, people were going to die. So again, this person sounds like they were biased in a certain way, maybe against Trump, but even with their judgment, they're seeing that this was not a violation. Next, Twitter's safety team decides that Trump's 7:44 a.m. Tweet is also not in violation. They are unequivocal. It's a clear no vio. It's just to say he's not attending the inauguration. So again, if you remember, he had mentioned he's not going to attend the January 20th inauguration. To understand Twitter's decision to ban Trump, we must consider how Twitter deals with other heads of state and political leaders, including Iran, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. Now, let's take a look at some of these and notice how much more extreme these are. And so, in June 2018, Iran's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei tweeted, Israel is a malignant, cancerous tumor in the West Asian region, and that has to be removed and eradicated. It is possible, and it will happen. So Twitter neither deleted the tweet nor banned the Ayatollah. In October 2020, the former Malaysian Prime Minister said it was a right for Muslims to kill millions of French people. Twitter deleted his tweet for glorifying violence, but he remains on the platform. The tweet below was taken from the Wayback Machine. Muhammadu Buhari, the president of Nigeria, incited violence against the pro-Biafra groups. Those of us in the fields for 30 months who went through the war, he wrote, will treat them in the language they understand. Twitter deleted the tweet but didn't ban Buhari. In October 2021, Twitter allowed Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to call on citizens to take up arms against the Tigray region. Twitter allowed the tweet to remain up but did not ban the Prime Minister. In early February 2021, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government threatened to arrest Twitter employees in India and to incarcerate them for up to 7 years after they restored hundreds of accounts that had been critical of him. Twitter did not ban Modi. But Twitter executives did ban Trump, even though key staffers said that Trump did not incite violence, not even in a coded way. Less than 90 minutes after Twitter employees had determined that Trump's tweets were not in violation of Twitter policy, Vijay Gad, Twitter's head of legal, policy and trust, asked whether it could, in fact, be coded incitement to further violence. So let's take a look at what she is saying. Thanks. The biggest question is whether a tweet like the one this morning from Trump, which isn't a rule violation on its face, again, she herself admitting that this is not a violation of Twitter rules, is being used as coded incitement to further violence. So again, they're looking, they're scratching, they're trying to pick at things to find something, but they're just going to interpret the way they want to. And so if you have any context or insight, we should consider I'm all ears. Use of the term American patriots, and they will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. This is an interesting question. I'm going to speak with my team ASAP to see if we can run a quick survey to get reactions to the language contained in the tweet and get back to you. I'm not sure I would rely on a survey. I worry about how that would be perceived externally. Wondering if we have anything in past research that could be relevant. So again, they sound like they're professional. They sound like they are doing the right thing. But again, they have a skewed view. They have a bias. They have, again, unbiblical, worldly view in terms of what is clouding their judgment. A few minutes later, Twitter employees on the scaled enforcement team suggest that Trump's tweet may have violated Twitter's glorification of violence policy. If you interpret the phrase American patriots to refer to the rioters. I'm not going to read the detail of that, but from here, things escalate from here. Members of that team came to view him as the leader of a terrorist group responsible for violence/deaths comparable to Christchurch shooter or Hitler, and on that basis and on the totality of his tweets, he should be deplatformed. 2 hours later, Twitter executives host a 30-minute all-staff meeting. Jack Dorsey and Vijay Gad answer staff questions as to why Trump wasn't banned yet, but they make some employees angrier. Multiple tweets have quoted the vanity of evil, suggesting that people implementing our policies are like Nazis following orders, relays Yoel Roth to a colleague. That is unbelievable how this escalates. And I will get back to this in a little bit of other details. I'm not sure who should hear this, but if you look at the conversation in whatever channel, plenty of employees are not responding well to the 30-minute brief. I feel people want to feel heard and having someone with the right purview to reason with, and yet I'm not sure Jack Vijaya are totally saturated. I wonder if we can mobilize people who are on the peripheral of decision-making but not at all consumed to engage with internal discussions. Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it. Candidly, not a lot of people who are close to the decisions would feel safe engaging there. Multiple tweets have quoted the vanity of evil, suggesting that people implementing our policies are like Nazis following orders, which, as someone responsible for our policies who had direct family members in Auschwitz, is not exactly an environment I want to wade into. People are angry and want to express themselves, but the way the conversation happens can close off meaningful engagement. So continuing on, Dorsey requested simpler language to explain Trump's suspension. Roth wrote, "God help us, this makes me think he wants to share it publicly. If we get close to suspension and an analysis of 8chan or Parler as part of the decision, any links to that content would be helpful for us with trusted. If possible, I'd like those services to pay a price here." So again, clearly there is a disdain towards 8chan or Parler. Whatever their preconceived notion is, they want them to pay a price, right? And so they're grabbing at straws to see what they can do to not only suspend Trump, but to punish these other places and to deem them in a certain light, right? And then it goes back to other things like censorship and just trending stuff and controlling this narrative of what this is to be perceived as, these channels, right? And then 1 hour later, Twitter announces Trump's permanent suspension due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Many Twitter employees were ecstatic. Now, just take a look at this. Here, Team DJT is suspended. Oh my goodness. Look at, like, literally, if you have spiritual eyes to see, these are people with such a hatred that their celebration is demonic in nature. And again, people are going to be like, whoa, 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 calm down, bro. I'm literally telling you spiritually, if you see this guy, like, look at this. Well, this feels like a piece of history. It is. Solid message. Thank you, everyone, for your impactful work this week, for the discussion, and for drafting all these complex assessments. I'm very proud to the work and learn from you every day. Wishing you a good weekend. So again, pulling at strings here, stretching, trying to get this person banned. And there's an issue, again, which is deeper, is that they're basing their conclusions on certain anchors that are faulty in nature. This whole aspect, and more of the truth will come out about January 6th, about Pelosi, about the Capitol Police, about many things, right? About who is really inciting and was at the cause of this. Was there a color revolution? Were there the people like Ray Epps and all these informants, Antifa and Proud Boys, and whoever these people are, all these people who have had a say in trying to incite violence. And I'm not saying that nothing bad happened in January 6th. If you even see the videos, you have people peacefully coming in. You have others trying to incite violence. So let me go back to this and just continue reading it before I go back to some more comments. But it says in part 34, and congratulatory big props to whoever in trust and safety is sitting there whack-a-moling these Trump accounts. Again, it sounds like they're randomly taking these down without any rhyme or reason. And by the next day, employees expressed eagerness to tackle medical misinformation as soon as possible. Now, this is a whole other topic to share on another day. I'm not going to read the details of this. For the longest time, Twitter's stance was that they aren't the arbiter of truth, wrote another employee, which I respected, but never gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling. And the rest of this is just talking about how it's going to reach a breaking point, what they just did, the repercussions, stuff like that. And then the other tweets are talking about how everybody else across the world, other world leaders, were hesitant. They were either against it, they raised concern, things like that. And then from part 42, from the outset, our goal in investigating this story was to discover and document the steps leading up to the banning of Trump and to put that choice into context. Ultimately, the concerns about Twitter's efforts to censor news about Hunter Biden's laptop, blacklist disfavored views, and ban a president aren't about the past choices of executives in a social media company, but they are about the power of a handful of people at a private company to influence the public discourse and democracy. So again, that sounds very troubling to me. A few people with a certain ideological point of view being able to have this amount of power to do something on such a large platform, such as Twitter, is very worrisome, right? And the other thing, so quickly, I also want to say that some of the other people here mentioned that you forgot to mention this video of President Trump calling out rioters. Why, right? So again, this video was, again, telling people not to riot. And he even tweets, on that same day, January 6th, I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful, no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. So again, there's nothing here that is, again, from the interpretation of Twitter themselves or anybody else who has an objective point of view, not a biased, clouded point of view, not anchoring your information off something that's faulty and not necessarily true, right? Again, the details of some of these things will come into play, but just looking at these things and then to be able to stretch it so far is to think, oh, this is coded violence. Oh, look at what he means by American patriots. And then escalating to such a degree that they're just saying, oh, Nazi, Hitler, and all this stuff. That literally, you can tell that there is no righteous judgment. There is not a clear-headed, rational thinking that is being involved here, as opposed to a desire based on their hatred for a movement, a party, for truth, for these things, to overwhelm them to such a degree that they're making these monumental decisions as banning and deplatforming a sitting president. So just wanted to give you guys this. If you walk this through with me and you saw it the way I did, then clearly the Holy Spirit is working in you and you have discernment. For other people, I can tell, I guarantee you, people in the comments, other people that still have a clouded, biased hatred covering their veil to see clearly, they're still, and with a demonic oppression, they're still going to take it in such a way, whereas the mainstream media and all these other guys, they have for so long have been portraying as being the narrative. And even as truth comes out, they're going to refuse to open their eyes to see the truth. So God bless you guys. It's a tough time for everybody. People think right is left, left is right, many other things. Love you guys. Talk to you guys soon. God bless you.